All right, cool. Today, we're going to have a little change of pace, man. Been talking about manifesting, we've been talking about spirituality. But like I always say, if you want to learn about everything, learn about anything. Everything is multidimensional. Life is multidimensional. So then we're going to talk about masculinity and femininity. We're going to talk about the polarities. And, ladies, you might get some gems on how to deal with the man you want. Gentlemen, you might get some gems on how to deal with the woman that you want. But we're going to talk about this from the perspective of, well, the title of it is You Can't Lead Her If You're Following Her. But also why masculine men shouldn't be with masculine women and why feminine women should not be with feminine men. Okay, so we're going to talk about polarity. Ty, what it do? What it do? Okay, so to start off, there's a cosmic order to masculine and feminine energy. It's like fire and water. They are not meant to compete, but to complement. But what happens when the polarity is reversed? When masculinity confronts masculinity in the body of a woman, okay, or femininity hides in the frame of a man. The result is confusion, disrespect, and ultimately destruction. So I wanted to do this to look at gender roles from a perspective of polarity, spiritual polarity, and see if we can make sense of it, okay? Because if you look out in the world, what you will see is that the more masculine you are, the more feminine your partner would be. Doesn't matter if you're man or woman, okay? For this lecture, we're gonna use men and women in masculine and feminine roles. But you can look out and you can see that if two people are more neutral, they're more flowing in their masculinity and femininity, they'll be with someone else who's more flowing, okay? Also, if a man is more masculine, he tends to be with a woman that is more feminine. If a woman is more feminine, the more feminine she is, she's gonna be with a man that's more masculine. Okay, this is just how polarity works. It just makes sense. But why does it make sense? What is the spiritual background behind that? All right, so let's dive into it. In nature, polarity is balance. Okay, the sun and the moon, the hunter and the nurturer, the protector and the receiver. Okay, the masculine gives strength, direction, and protection. All right. And the feminine offers creation, fluidity, and intuition. How I'm going to challenge you is I want you to look at this from a energy perspective. Look at it both ways. Look at it from the perspective of relationship dynamics, because if you understand polarity, if you understand how femininity and masculinity wrap around each other and intertwine and flirt and dance with one another, if you understand the Shiva and Shakti, the yin and the yang, the positive, the negative, masculine, feminine, you are going to be better set up to win at the game of relationships, because it's really just a game. You're going out and you're conquering the world separately, and then y'all come together at the end of the day to flirt and make love and solve each other's issues and build each other up and beat each other's backs out, right? So these are all the things that you are, well, not beat each other, well, if that's what you do, but beat her back out, right? So if you understand how the feminine and masculine dance, now you are in a much better place to win. I was just having a conversation with one of my homeboys earlier. We were talking about the unwritten rules of masculinity in life. Okay, if I am a man and I'm a leading masculine man, we know that our iron sharpens iron. Men just debate all the time for no real reason, right? Well, the reason is that we sharpen each other. Okay, but there's also unwritten rules in the confrontation between two men. We don't cross certain lines because we know there could be violence. We know that it could get physical. It could lead to somebody potentially losing their life, getting locked up. Okay. Now, what happens when a man embodies that dominant masculine energy? He's a leading masculine man, and then he encounters a woman who is a leading masculine woman energetically, right? Well, you don't even feel like yourself. There could never be two people that are leading masculine in the relationship. And this is why, just in a practical way, let me break this down. If you confront, or if you are having a conversation with a woman and y'all are not seeing eye to eye, it's perfectly fine to disagree. Matter of fact, you should disagree. It's healthy to disagree. But what happens if she gets combative? What happens if this woman gets combative with you? She speaks violently towards you, right? Society says you're not a real man if you put your hands on a woman. And I would never argue for that. But what does this do to your masculine energy? Okay, a woman gets combative to you. The same rules don't apply like if it was a man. Okay, so you have to tuck your masculinity away. You have to repress your masculinity. And what that does is that emasculates you. It makes you lose respect for yourself, and ultimately it flips the roles, right? A masculine leading man can never be with a masculine leading woman because it does not make sense. You will have to repress your masculinity because you could not react to any woman the way that you would react to a man. Just the respect that you have for yourself, the respect you have for your freedom, the respect you have for her, right, will not allow you to be in that situation. The only choice is to leave. Because this woman becomes overly combative, overly pressing you, right? You can't react to her like if this was another grown man. Okay? You have to go against the natural laws, the natural way of your being, okay, just to settle this situation down. All right? So we also have to have the discernment to understand the difference between a disagreement and a disagreement or a debate and arguing. And I always say, right, not a big fan of arguing with women. I don't do it. Okay, now I debate with you. We can have a disagreement very respectfully, right? But the moment that it feels like, oh shit, I'm like combative here. What's going on, right? We're trying to impose our will on one another. Well, now energetically, shit, we're off balance. Okay. And then also, well, I'll go into this a little bit further, but also we need to understand the difference between setting boundaries and arguing, right? You tell somebody you do not like something, or because really the purpose of boundaries is you have a structure that you give someone and you say, if the person that I'm with is operating within this realm, now I can be the best version of myself. Okay, so this isn't really something to negotiate. This is going to be a divine. Your boundaries are divine. Your boundaries are a byproduct of you knowing yourself well enough to understand how you can show up in a healthy way. And that's really how you should be explaining it. Look, baby, I care about you. I want this to work. And for this to work, for me to really pour into you to the best of my abilities, right? This is how I would prefer my relationships to work. This is the things that I prefer you not doing. Now, when we talk about worldly things, right, we'll see these debates online all the time and people talk about the club and the dress and all that. My solution for that is not to deal with women if you meet them and they're in a spot that you don't want them to be at. Well, shit, you already starting off behind, brother, right? So your best bet is if you don't want her to go there, don't meet her there. Right? If you don't want her to dress like that, don't meet her while she's dressing like that. And then also take your time to actually understand what this woman is about before you jump in and commit, right? But let's say y'all start having that discussion. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. Okay, this is what allows me to step forward as the divine masculine that I am. Or ladies, this is what allows me to step forward as that divine feminine that I am. All right. Now, if you can't do it, we're just not in alignment. If you can do it, okay, let's see how this rolls. Right. But where the problem is when we try to use boundaries to change people. Your boundary is not a negotiation. It's not a negotiation tactic. It's not trying to say, hey, look, I need you to be like this and change. I know you've been out in the club, but I need you to stop. I know you've been out doing this, shaking ass, but I need you to stop. Right. At that point, we're not talking about a boundary. This is just something that you wish she would do. But you are not strong enough to go out and actually find someone who fits your standards. So the moment that we start using boundaries as this negotiation tactic, right? Please change, no. Come on, change, no. You keep overstepping my boundaries, I don't care, right? Well, now you're just in a weak position. So instead of y'all using your energy to actually build forward in the relationship, y'all are using your energy to try to figure out why the other person keeps going out when you don't want them to go out, or why they keep dressing like a certain way that you don't want them to dress, right? Because the truth is there's some men that are going to be out there and they want you to dress as little as possible, right? Other men want you to be more reserved. And this could be personal preference, could be based on religion. There are all kinds of things, right? But your boundaries are a byproduct of you knowing yourself and understanding that this is how I'm going to step forward in a relationship to the fullness of myself, okay? Look, I don't take back a cheater could be your boundary, right? It doesn't matter if they would never do it again. It doesn't matter if they apologize for 10 hours straight. They sing outside your window. It doesn't matter if they really never would do it again. If I can't get over it here and I cannot show up fully to you, it doesn't matter if you're sorry. It doesn't matter if you would never do it again. I can't be with you. This is how you should look at your boundary. If you do this, then I will not be able to show up in my divine nature. I won't be the best of myself. So I'm denying myself the opportunity to truly grow with someone. And I'm even denying you the opportunity to grow with somebody. So it's best we just go our separate ways. Okay? Self-love. Loving yourself. Right? There's no sex good enough to make me get rid of my boundaries. There should be no woman beautiful enough to make you get rid of your boundaries. Right? Ladies, there should be no man that can put that pipe on you good enough to make you turn away from your boundaries. Because at the end of the day, you are putting yourself first. You have to say, when I show up in this situation, I want to be full so I can pour from a full cup. And we can both grow in a divine way. Okay. Now, when I come in half-ass, cup half full, I can barely pour. I'm just looking for you to pour into mine. This is what you really are doing when you don't have good boundaries. You're going in and you're just saying, all right, look, I'm not full. I'm not complete. Right? I'm not that confident in myself. I need you to validate me. And you're going to validate me by I'm going to say these things that I would prefer. And I want you to change into that person. I want to mold you into the type of person that would make me feel validated. Okay, this is just unhealthy thinking. It's not going to get you very far. You're going to constantly end up in a situation where people are just going to use you, going to walk over you. They're going to do you wrong until they use you up, and then they're going to move on. Right? Exactly. Two halves don't make a whole. Right? They do not make a whole spiritually. All right. Now, so let's get back to this law of polarity. So masculine, structure, direction, and protection. So an example, the masculine energy designs the blueprint, lays the foundation, and constructs the walls. And I know I just gave that whole spiel and I was dealing with men and women, but let's get back to looking at this energetically, right? Because you can be a leading masculine woman and deal with a feminine man. You can be a leading masculine man and deal with a feminine woman. You can be neutral and deal with a neutral, right? So to understand polarity doesn't just mean men and women. One of the great deceptions that we've had in life, in this world, is there's this illusory thinking that someone else can complete you. No one else ever could. You have male and female within you. Even if you think about things like Kundalini, okay, the eternal flame within you, the Holy Spirit, right? This is a masculine and feminine energy. This is a dualistic energy. It rises up your spine, right? Those two serpents that rise up your spine, it represents one side being masculine, one side being feminine. Boom, boom, boom. Okay? Negative, positive, yin, yang. It's all the same thing. Okay? So you actually can complete yourself by yourself. You don't really need any, if I'm a masculine leading man, right, which I am, I don't actually need a feminine woman to bring me feminine energy. I still have my own feminine energy. Right? If you are a feminine woman, you really don't need a man to. So let's also think about this in modern time. This might be a little polarizing, but this is actually meant just to make you think, right? Because I want y'all to be, we all need to be balanced in our views of life. When we lean too far one way or the other and lose our balance, right, we can't see clearly anymore. Okay. I just completely lost my train of thought. But anyways, one of the illusions is that we actually need each other to complete one another. When energetically we can raise our vibration, we can raise our frequency, we can raise our kundalini, we can do all of these, we can have all of these spiritual experiences by ourselves, right? Now, being with somebody is going to make your experience, I guess, a little bit more fun. Y'all are going to be able to come home and meet each other and do things and connect and grow and have that divine counterpart, that divine mirror. But one of the things that we've been programmed to believe is that our purpose lies in a partner. I remember what I was going to say. All right. we have evolved as a species. Okay? Humans have evolved. Back in the day, when we were out fighting wild animals and we were running around savagely killing each other for resources, there was a need for a man to truly protect a woman. Okay? Now, men can protect a woman these days, but it's completely changed. Gone are the days, because of the economy, because of how working is, right? There's something within you as a man that wants to provide for a woman. You want to make as much money as you can so you can give a woman the life that makes her feel like a queen, right? It's part of the desires. It's one of the divine things about you. It just feels good, right? However, because of how life is, it's not a necessity. Okay? Because of how the economy is, right? The average person can't even do that anymore. You have to be pretty above average, right? So there are a lot of people that are falling more on the practicality of I handle what I can, you handle what you can. We meet, we do this to the best of our ability, and we work together to provide for one another to scale, right? And that might be a practical thing. That might be the type of relationship you want. If that is, that's the type of person that you should look for. And if you want to provide, you have to find somebody who wants to be provided for, right? But then you also have to step your game up to make sure that you are in alignment with the resources that you need so you can do all that. Okay? But we've really evolved past the thinking or the mindset that every man, right, is going to meet a woman and she is going to completely be provided for by him. This is just not how the world is designed. This isn't even how we're raised anymore. Okay? We are raised, women aren't just raised to be wives, because it's not even a guarantee that you can be a wife, right? What's guaranteed is that you're going to have bills eventually. So you're taught how to step into the workforce, how to develop skills. All right? So we're in a changing world, but let's get back to the polarity. All right. So masculine energy designs the blueprint, lays the foundation, and constructs the walls. It decides where the home will stand, how it will be built, and ensures it's strong enough to endure storms. This is direction, structure, and protection, order applied to chaos, which is metaphorical, right? Order applied to chaos is the same way that a child is brought into this world. The womb is expansive. The womb is connected to the cosmos. You can think of the womb as just infinite consciousness, really. And the order of your vibranium, when you insert into a woman, right, there is an explosion, boom, representative of the Big Bang, how the universe is created. And the order is formed from that chaos, right? You enter a woman, you bring order from the chaos. And a child is born, an avatar comes to life. Or we can think of it this way. Your woman has all these problems. All these things are going on in her life, right? She sits down with you. She starts venting. She starts telling you all the things that are in her beautiful mind. And you take these things and you structure them and you point her down the path, and then you lay that pipe on her afterwards, right? Bringing order to chaos. Now, in order for us to do that as men, we have to be orderly ourselves. This is why one of the highest tenets of masculinity is discipline. Because I can't bring order to anyone else's mind if I am not orderly myself. Okay? So when we talk about masculine energy, we're talking about discipline, we're talking about order, we're talking about foundation, we're talking about structure, we're talking about all those things. All right? Now let's talk about feminine, the feminine energy. When we talk about feminine, we're talking about creation, fluidity, intuition. So feminine energy takes that structure, right, and turns it into a home. She chooses the colors, creates warmth, and fills it with life, love, and emotional harmony. She knows intuitively where the plants go, what energy feels right, and how to make it nurturing. This is creation, flow, and filling. Soul breathed into form. Soul breathed into form. So, you know, sometimes women might come over and be like, damn. Or a woman might walk into your house and be like, damn, was there a woman here? Who decorated this shit? All right? Because typically you have a home, you have a woman, she's going to make it homey. She's going to kind of design it. She's going to know where to put things, right? You go to a woman's home, oh, you're like, damn, it's comfortable here. I love it in here, right? It's nice, okay? So let's fast forward, because like I said, we can look at this energetically if you're a leading masculine or a leading feminine, but we all have feminine and masculine within us that we all should be tapping into. So we have to think of these different things. If I'm tapped into my masculine energy, that means I'm looking at structure, direction, protection, okay? If I'm tapped into my feminine energy, it's more creation, fluidity, intuition. These are not 100% specific to each gender, right? They're just energies. Because if you're an artist, you have to tap into your feminine energy. Not all artists are women, right? Intuition is tapping into your feminine energy. Men and women both have intuition. They say women's intuition, but men's intuition is the same. It's just as strong. Just as strong. There is no stronger woman's intuition than male intuition. Okay? We all have intuition that we can tap into. Okay? Structure, direction. This is masculine. Okay? However, you mean to tell me if a woman's by herself, she can have no structure and no direction to her life? Right? If you want to make money, you have to step into some masculine energy. Okay? Because money is feminine. So this is kind of one of the laws of polarity. So we'll see this when a woman goes into the corporate environment. She has to tap into what kind of energy to survive in there? Masculine energy. Okay, so this is energy that is within everyone. But we do typically have something that leads us. One energy is stronger than another one within us. Right, and this determines the type of person that we have, right? If I had more feminine energy in me, it would make no sense for me to be with a feminine leading woman, right? But because I'm more masculine leading, I would be with a more feminine woman. And because I'm more masculine leading, I attract much more feminine women, okay? So, in a world confused with I read that wrong. In a world that has confused equality with sameness, polarity has been polluted. Okay, so now men are told to suppress their natural instincts while women are encouraged to dominate with theirs. This isn't evolution, it's spiritual genesis or spiritual dissonance. Okay, so God did not make two suns, he made light and reflection, not two swords, but sword and sheath. So take this balance into your relationships. And so now we're really going to get into it. I'm going to go back to the point that I started with. Okay? So hopefully, it's some gems in here for you to help you with your relationship. So masculine men do not compete with masculine men. Okay? When a masculine man walks into a room with another masculine man, there is an unspoken code, respect, boundaries, okay, and the constant awareness that violence is always a potential outcome. Okay? This isn't toxic, it's primal. This is why men don't just randomly disrespect one another in the street, because consequences are understood. So a real world example, two men at a bar bump shoulders, words may be exchanged, but escalation is avoided unless one disrespects the line. There's a biological understanding. If I push too far, this could get very dangerous, right? It could get real. Right? Someone could lose their life, lose their freedom, whatever the case may be. So that is masculine polarity regulating itself. So we'll see that the more masculine you are, you understand it. It's not even something that I really have to explain much, but I'll explain it because, I'm sure there's women watching, right? When you are debating with another man, there's ways that I talk to my homeboys because we know each other. And we've been together for such a long time, right? I know them. We know how to push each other's buttons and things like that, right? And when we debate, we do it from a respectful place. And if I'm talking to another adult, right? If I'm talking to another man, there are lines that I don't cross, just like there's lines that they will not cross. Just a mutual respect for masculinity. Now, let's think about this, okay? So what happens when a masculine leading man, okay, encounters a masculine leading woman and there is some kind of conflict? The conversation gets pushed too far. The disagreement goes too far. What happens energetically? Okay, because we know what could happen potentially from the physical level, right? Because it could get, he's basically going to go to prison. Basically, he's setting himself up for major problems. Doesn't matter if somebody walks up and sees them, calls the police on them. Doesn't matter if he overreacts, right? What actually happens is that because if a man and a woman, a masculine man meet up, right? And they're arguing, right? The woman doesn't typically understand the dynamics of male communication between one another. And the world tells you, don't put your hands on a woman, right? And you shouldn't. I'm not advocating for that. But because most men understand this, what we naturally do is we will naturally start to suppress our masculinity. And once you start to suppress your masculinity, you end up emasculating yourself. You begin to look at yourself with less respect, right? You begin to naturally submit to this woman just as a byproduct of her being more masculine. Not even her being more masculine. She doesn't have to be more masculine than you. Just as a byproduct of her showing up and being masculine leading, you will start to submit. Just naturally, because what is the other option? The other option is you lose your freedom. Okay? So the only option that you have in these situations literally is to walk away. So pull yourself out of it. You can't argue your way through this. You can't convince her to start acting differently. There's only one way to get through this, okay, and it is to leave. So, part 3, okay, what happens when a woman acts like a man? All right, so when a woman steps into masculine energy, all right, which is fine. If you want to step into masculine energy, that's fine, but you have to do it with a more feminine man. And I don't know many women that truly want to go out there and lead a man around, right? Most women, you give them 2 options. I would say 99.9%. I don't care how masculine you think you are, how good of a leader you think you are. If I gave you the option and said, you can lead a man or a man can lead you. He can provide for you or you can provide for him. Matter of fact, y'all can split everything and you make all the decisions, or y'all can split everything. He can make all the decisions. Or you can actually be with a man that you can trust and you don't even have to work. You could just be with him. He will lead you around. Most women are going to take the leading man position all the damn time. Okay. So when a woman steps into masculine energy and becomes confrontational, combative, or domineering, the dynamic collapses. Okay. So now the masculine man is faced with a paradox. He cannot respond as he would to another man, because society forbids it, right? You're not a man if you hit a woman, okay? Real men don't get emotional, right? Oh, he's acting, what do they say now, sassy. Man's acting sassy, he's in his feelings, right? Real men don't get emotional. I should be able to yell and confront you and poke your buttons, and you should just be stoic through it. You should be stone cold through it. That's what the world says. Right? Walk away, be the bigger person. So as a byproduct, you suppress your masculinity. You suppress your natural instinct. Your natural instinct. When you look out into the wild and you see 2 animals, right? You might see 2 lions going at it, right? One doesn't submit. They literally just fight it out, right? Your natural instinct. Your natural instinct is not to just let another man disrespect you, walk all over you. This is not your natural instinct. This is why it hurts so much, why it's so frustrating for a lot of men when they're in situations where you just feel disrespected. Because there's nothing you can do. Everything that you do is wrong. You defend yourself wrong. Right? You try to defend yourself physically or emotionally, verbally, wrong. Okay? So what is there to do? The only thing to do in this situation is to leave. All right? The more masculine you are, you have to protect your masculine energy. You have to protect your masculine energy. You have to put yourself first, right? So you need to cultivate the feminine energy within you so you can actually recognize the feminine energy within the woman that you want. This is a requirement. The more masculine you are, you cannot be with a woman who leads with masculinity. It won't work. All right? So He represses, he swallows, he withholds his primal instinct to protect his order. Okay? But energy cannot be denied forever. Energy can't be destroyed. Right? It can only be transformed. Try to suppress it all you want. It is going to make itself manifest, right? So that pressure turns inward and becomes emasculation, confusion, even rage. Okay? The man loses pieces of himself trying to stay civilized in a battlefield where the rules are rigged. The rules are rigged. If you are dealing with a woman who becomes overly confrontational with you, the rules are rigged. You cannot react in a way that's in your nature. So the only byproduct is you suppress your feelings. You walk away. And then you start looking at yourself. You start emasculating yourself. You start saying, damn, bro, the fuck? Why did I do that? Why am I in this situation? You deny yourself who you are by being with a woman that also leads with her masculine. Okay? So we have to understand this polarity, this energy, how energy flows, so we can show up, so we can actually choose people that are right for us. Okay? A lot of the debates that we're having as a people right now are actually because a lot of people don't understand this. Just the power of polarity, some of the spiritual principles of polarity. Okay, and the more that you understand this, the better off you will be. All right, so in the Kabbalah, okay, the masculine force is wisdom and the feminine is understanding. All right, and so when wisdom tries to compete with understanding, the system collapses. Okay, masculine must pour into feminine and not clash with it. What's up? Okay, so I want to do a side note. Actually, I'm gonna do that at the end. All right, so part 4, feminine women shouldn't deal with feminine men. Okay, so a feminine woman, if you're a woman that's leading with your femininity, right, you are built to receive, to open, okay, to be led, right? That energy wants to flirt with life. You get what you want because of your ability to flirt with life, right? You understand, if you are feminine leading, that the power is in building people up. Your power is in speaking life, right? Your power is not in combat. You don't want to go to war, right? You want to use your word. Your words are your tools. Your affection is your tool. Your nurturing is a tool, right, to get what you want. Okay, so if she aligns with a man in feminine energy, she is forced to do with what her soul resists, which is lead the leader. Okay? She becomes the provider, the emotional container, the protector. And though she may act like she can hold that position, her body and soul will rebel. She will lose respect for the man and slowly for herself. We have to understand that women respect presence. Okay, there's power in presence. Okay, so think about it like this. The more feminine your woman is, the more present your masculine energy has to be. Let me think of an example. Did I put one in here? Okay, this can actually help. All right, so real world example. A woman dating a passive, okay, a feminine leading woman who is dating a passive, indecisive man may initially feel safe because he's agreeable, but as bills pile, as leadership lacks and danger arises, her nervous system begins to feel unsafe, not because of harm, but because of absence. I want to think about this in a different way. I think I could have did better than that example. So think about it like this, right? The power of presence. Even if this feminine woman wants this powerful masculine leading man, and she goes out and meets this entrepreneur type guy, and very successful, very driven. In the beginning, it feels so good, okay? Now, let's say that his presence begins lacking. He's always traveling for work, always doing whatever. What we'll see is that the more feminine energy a woman has, right, what she will start craving is presence more. And so often men will say, okay, well, Damn, at least, man, if this dude can't keep a woman, how could I? Right? And they'll start saying, well, shoot, like, even this man, he's a celebrity, he can't keep a woman. How do I? Right? Well, it's about more than just money, power, fame, decisions, leadership. It's about presence. The more that you want to always be on your woman's mind, whether you are around or not. This is why one of the best tools that you can have, one of the things that you can have is you get a game. All right. So one of the best things that I found very beneficial with women is when you have a purpose, right? You find a woman who matches that purpose. Meaning, I have a goal or a desire for my life. My life is headed in a certain direction. And so the woman is going to look at that and she's almost going to take it as if it's hers as well. Right? Whether it is trading, whatever the case may be, whatever you're passionate about, the woman's going to come into your life. And if she loves you, she's going to all of a sudden get real curious about what you are doing. Can you find ways to break off pieces of what you're doing and give it to her? All right. Can you continuously paint a future that makes her feel as if you are extremely present in her life right now? It could be as simple as driving around a nice neighborhood and showing her places and saying, this is where we're going to live one day. How do you feel about this? And having conversations with her about that and saying, this is why I work so much, because this is the type of place that I want to stay with you. Right? This is why I do for you. Right? This is one of the powers of presence. So then even when you are away, hey, look, let's go look at some new houses. Right? When I'm gonna be back on Saturday. Right? I'm out of town Thursday and Friday. I'll be back Saturday, man. Pick some neighborhoods. Let's go look at some places. Right? Let's start planning. So now even when you are away from her, you are on her mind. Now, every time she sees a house that she likes, who is associated with that house? Yo black ass. Okay? Another example. If I am into scripture, all right, what I would do is I would use scripture. I would bring scripture into our life, or I would use books. Let's say books, not even scripture. Let's use something more people can relate to. Let's say that there's something we're working towards. Okay, financially, or we just had a disagreement. We're trying to kind of work through things. And I say, you know what, baby, look, I'll be out of town tomorrow. I'm gonna go with my parents tomorrow, whatever the case may be. But I've been reading this book and it's really reminded me of you. Can't stop thinking about you when I'm reading it. I think this chapter really deals with what we're going through. Could be whatever. Right? It could be financially, it could be emotionally, whatever the case may be. I'm going to come over this Saturday, I'm going to cook for you, and let's talk about this. All right, let's talk about the book. Now, she picks up that book, and now every time she hears about that book, she sees that book, she remembers your black ass. Right? This is staying on her mind and staying present even when you are not around. Okay? This is magic. So your presence is going to be very, very important. The more feminine a woman is, because what does femininity crave? Presence, right? She wants to feel like you're there even when you are not there. Right? Even when you're out conquering the world, she wants to feel like you are there. What better way than to attach yourself to all these things in her life and allow her to start seeing everything in her life as tools to build intimacy with you, right? So we often think of date nights as, okay, date night has to be we just go out to some restaurant or to some park and we dress. Yeah, you can do that as well. But what if y'all are actually learning things? What if y'all's dates were actually balanced with you putting her on game, right? It's not something that she can just go out and get from someone else, right? So anybody can just ask her out, right? But who is truly putting on game? Who's getting her finances right? Right? Who is she building her emotional intelligence with? Okay? Who is she planning her future with? Right? So part of leadership, part of building that masculine container for your woman is constantly looking ahead. Doesn't matter what's going on in your life, constantly looking ahead, constantly painting that picture of the future, constantly throwing nuggets out there, constantly having her forward looking, and then constantly bringing her back into the present moment. Okay. And I would go a little deeper in that, but it would sound like manipulation. So I'll say that game for the for the actual clients, right? But you want to, the power of your presence. Your presence is extremely powerful. Okay, so here we go. All right, so a biblical pattern. So in Judges 4, Barak tells the prophetess Deborah, all right, if you go with me. So Barak being a man, Deborah being a prophetess, right, the woman. Barak tells her, look, if you go with me, I'll go. We're talking about war, all right? If you go with me, then I'll go. But if you don't, I won't go. Okay, let's think about this from a masculine and feminine perspective. You telling your woman, hey, baby, look, I got this thing to go to. If you go with me, I'll go. But if you don't go, I'm not going to go. Okay? Might seem like a small thing. Maybe it is a small thing. But let's look at it from a polarity aspect. Deborah agrees, but tells him, because of the course you are taking, the honor will not be yours. Okay? So Barak was a man waiting to be led by a woman. Okay, victory came, but glory did not. All right, meaning, let's read this and then I'll break that down. Okay, so this exchange between Barak and Deborah in Judges 4 reveals a critical breakdown in masculine polarity. Barak, a warrior and leader, refuses to step into his masculine role of direction and protection unless a woman, Deborah, goes with him. In doing so, he abdicates his spiritual authority and leadership, placing the burden of initiation on the feminine energy. Deborah agrees to support him, but she also prophesies that the honor of victory will not be his. Why? Because he failed to embody the masculine essence of decisive leadership. Okay, he deferred to feminine energy to initiate the battle, something that by design he was meant to lead. Okay, so if you understand this game of polarity, then women, you should understand the game of how to keep your man in his masculine. This is a dance. This is a constant dance that we're doing, right? Just like the man, we have to understand how to keep our woman in her feminine polarity. The woman has to understand how to keep the man in his masculinity, right? Who is being penetrated? The woman is also always being penetrated. The feminine energy is being penetrated, okay? And the masculine energy is doing the penetrating, right? But the woman can seduce and flirt, right? And the man can be present, okay? This is a great dance. This is the dance of Shiva and Shakti, right? The masculine and the feminine, the yin and the yang, okay? It's all polarity. It's all a big game. It's all a big dance, okay? We can get very rigid and say, okay, this is what men should do. This is what women should do. Okay, yeah, we can get rigid and do that shit too. But you're also going to see that when you do step into that divine union, into a real relationship, a lot of those gender roles are kind of going to go out the window. There are going to be certain things that your woman's better at. There's going to be certain things that you as a man are better at, right? Now, we can talk about overall direction. I'm leading overall direction of a relationship, but what if your woman is better at managing finances? What if she is? Okay. Can you still be in a masculine role? Of course you can. Of course you can. Right? But you have to understand this dance. You have to understand this energy. Okay? Being a man isn't just about dominating. It's not about my way or the highway. It's not a dictatorship. Okay? And being a woman is not just about blindly submitting and let somebody drive you off the edge of the damn cliff. Okay, both of those cases are, they're deadly. Okay, so we want to be people of balance. The more that we can understand our energy and how we flow with our partner, the better that we can be. But one of the cheat codes, women, is the Pacers beat the Cavs again. Damn. All right, but one of the cheat codes, women, is you should always be learning how to speak with your man. Okay, men and women, we need to learn how to communicate with each other. And it's this constant thing where we're learning over time. All right. So, for instance, I always talk about the dynamic of a disagreement, of a debate, where you have two different roles. You have the initiator and you have the receiver in any kind of conversation. And so the initiator has to set the table. I have to say, it is me and my partner against the problem. And then it's also me and my partner versus the discomfort. So I have to set the stage for the conversation in a very healthy way. All right, look, this is what happened. This is how it made me feel. This is what I want to address. But I also want you to know that I love you and we're together on this. Okay, so you have an obligation to set the table. If you're just going in to vent, it's already a problem. Now the receiver, the person on the other side, you have an obligation to sit in the fire of this person that you love, potentially telling you something that you did not even intend to do. And you have to reject that initial desire to say, yeah, but. Yeah, I know you feel like that, but. Okay, this takes strength. This takes vulnerability. Okay, so as the initiator, I set the table. As the receiver, I have to sit in the fire. And then I have to help that person get everything off of their chest. Okay? Then I have to be solution oriented. And I have to look at this as an opportunity. This is not an obstacle. It's an opportunity to grow in intimacy. Every situation, like everything in life mirrors everything. We talk about this from a manifesting perspective. Every situation that shows up in your life that you don't like is an opportunity for you to choose what you want. Every situation in your relationship that you do not like, okay, not every situation that you don't like, okay, but most situations, most things that show up as disagreements are just opportunities for y'all to grow in intimacy together. Right? And once you start looking at them like that, the game changes. And so you're constantly in this dance over 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, where you learn how to have these conversations better. You should be the most skilled person, the most skilled at having these conversations with your partner. You should be able to bring things up to them better than anyone else. You should be able to receive their feedback better than anyone else. This is the dance that y'all are going to have to do for the rest of your damn lives. So you might as well get good at it. Right? The world would fool you and say, oh no, this should be easy and you're going to complete each other's sentences. You might do that eventually, but you're two different people, two different perspectives, two different life experiences. Don't care how healed or conscious you are. Right? It doesn't matter how healed or conscious you are, you're still going to have different perspectives, different beliefs, different views, different ways of communicating, different ways you handle things, different opinions. You're going to have to figure that out. But there's divinity in that. The more you do it, the better you get. 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, you're still at it. You're real skilled at it. How long does it really take to perfect the craft? Right? You got to go to school 4 years to be a doctor, right? It's just 4 years of medical school, then a residency and all that, okay? Yet we think we can master this other person in 2 months. You think you've mastered them after the honeymoon stage? You're fooling yourself. It's an illusion, right? Nothing worth it is just quick. You don't download the information of how to be the perfect partner. Because even if you did download the information of how to be the perfect partner to that person right now, they're not going to be the same person in a year. Neither are you. You're both growing. So you're always on this constant road of learning each other. So the same way that we handle those conversations, those disagreements, we also need to handle the good times as well. We also need to understand how not to get complacent with one another. So as a man, I have to constantly be learning my woman, figuring out how to be more present with her, right? Showing her, her divinity, building her up, leading her, all right? Using every opportunity as a way to, how do I use this opportunity as a bridge to grow in intimacy? Yeah, we had this argument, so now this is just a path to greater intimacy. And now what could I do to allow us to grow better? You should be having the most polarizing conversations with your woman. You should be asking, you should be really having honest conversations about how would you feel? Like, how would you feel if I had a second wife? I just want to know your opinion. Y'all should be able to, I'm not saying that you want to have that. All right, don't confuse what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you want to have it. I'm saying yours relationship should be so well, so good, so open. You should be so good at communicating that y'all can literally debate about these and say, okay, let me play devil's advocate. In the Bible, I see all these men with a bunch of women. What do you think about that? Y'all should literally be peeling the layers off each other's brain all the time. You should be present with her. Okay? And women, you should truly learn the best ways to flirt with your women. Men, we should learn that too, right? But you should understand how to get what you want from your man without confrontation. You should understand the phrases he likes to hear, the things he likes you to do, the ways he likes to be touched, all those things, right? And now, what am I truly getting at with these points? What am I truly getting at? Well, the point that I'm truly getting at is because we all have masculine and feminine energy within us, all of us, guess what? We're all going to be in both roles. I am going to be in the role where I'm learning how to flirt with my woman, talk to her, get her to do the things that I want without confrontation, right? Build her up, right? She's going to be doing the same with me. I'm going to be using every moment that I can to grow in presence with her. She's going to be doing the same with me. Because I know you don't just want your man to be on your mind all the time. You want to be on his mind, right? So shit, you better learn how to orchestrate some of these days too. I've been reading this book, baby. I think this could help us. Okay? So now you start seeing that this dance of feminine and masculine that I have with this person is the same as this dance of feminine and masculine that I have within my damn self. I can't have a peaceful woman if I'm not peaceful. You can't even have a good man that leads you if you don't understand what leadership is, right? You can't be a good follower if you don't understand how to give grace to a leader. If you don't understand that leadership is imperfect sometimes, that leadership requires grace. Sometimes this man's gonna make mistakes. And he's gonna come back to you and he's gonna say, baby, look, I made this mistake. What can I do now? Right, let me put y'all on some more game, right? The more trust that you give someone, the more that y'all can actually grow in trust. One of the greatest lessons in discernment is understanding when to voice my opinion and when not to. And we tend to think that, oh no, if I have a opinion, I should always state it. No, you shouldn't. You should be wise enough to understand when to speak and when to shut up. To put it quite bluntly, right? And I'll give the common example that I always give. You and your man are going on vacation. Okay? And it's the day before vacation, and he's like, you know what? Let's go run some errands. We got to run errands today. We're going to go eat, and then we're going to go to this spot to pick up a couple items for our trip. And in your mind, you're thinking, why would we do that? Why don't we just go get the shit, go get the items now, so we can just relax. We can go get the items, we can pack, and then we can go eat, and we can just enjoy the rest of our night. That's what you're thinking. Okay? The challenge that I have is, how big of a deal is this to you? How big of a deal is it for you to rearrange the day when he initiated this plan? Maybe it is a huge deal to you. Maybe it's just so important that you have to bring it up. But there's going to be situations in a relationship where the man is ahead. Okay, so let's say in this situation he initiated, he's ahead. There's going to be situations where you're ahead. Okay, you're going to have to develop the discernment, men and women, to say what battles are worth fighting. When am I trying to build this person up? And when will me voicing my opinion do nothing but break this person down? Because in the grand scheme of things, fast forward, y'all are on the trip. Is it really gonna matter what y'all did first the day before? You got all your shit, and then y'all enjoyed the food, or you enjoyed the food, then you got all your shit, and then y'all went home, and instead of y'all packing first and then going home, or instead of y'all packing first and then going out to eat and then coming back and, making love to one another, instead you went to eat, and then you got all your stuff, and then you went home and packed, and then you made love to each other. You did all the same shit, just in a different order. It was still fun. What is more important? All right. So we'll see that as we start giving people trust and giving them grace and saying, okay, step out and lead and do things how you would like. Okay. Now we also start to see if they make mistakes, do they have the humility to come back and say, I made a mistake. It's going in a different direction. And once you can start trusting people in these little things, your trust grows. We tend to think that the moment that we meet someone, the trust will initially just snap into place, and that's not the case. Okay, trust is built over time. Just like your faith in the Most High is built over time. Just like your discipline in the gym is built over time. All these things are built over time. So we have to strip away the unrealistic expectations that leadership is perfect, because it's not. Look at any leader that you know throughout history. Name a perfect one. Name one that no one ever disagreed with. So leadership is not about perfection. Okay? It's just about having the best intention. Sometimes the intention is very important. Because it's not about the intention. It's about how you made me feel. I would argue that the intention is important. Right? If you don't believe that, that's cool. Right? But just the perspective to actually consider. Right? So we need to be skilled in all of these different aspects, right? To work well with one another. Okay? It's a beautiful dance. So I didn't even read the second paragraph of Barak and Deborah, not to be confused with the former president. Okay, this is the Barak of the Bible that we're talking about in Judges. So in the context of this lecture, Barak symbolizes the modern man who is passive, hesitant, and operating in feminine energy. Deborah, though powerful and prophetic, is forced to step into a role that is not hers to carry alone. The result is imbalance. The feminine may compensate, but divine order is disrupted. Just like today, when women lead in relationships and men remain indecisive or emotionally dependent, the polarity collapses, and with it, respect, desire, and honor. Okay, Deborah's words echo through time as a warning. When the masculine refuses to lead, he forfeits his crown, and the glory is handed to another. Okay, metaphorical. You can think of glory as whatever. But in this case, right, you said, all right, look, I got to go to war, but I'll go if you come. If you don't come, I ain't going. Right, say, okay, you might win, but you'll never be remembered. Okay, one of your drives, if you are masculine leading, one of your drives is legacy, it's purpose. It's feeling like you're placing an imprint on the world. You're changing the world in a positive way. That you are leading your family in a positive way. And sometimes, a lot of times, most of the time, it's going to require a decisiveness. Not an irresponsible decisiveness, okay? But a decisiveness that leans on the God within you. A decisiveness that says, I have all the information that I need, and this is the best path forward. This is the best way that we can move forward, okay? And then go about it. So, part five, the spiritual danger of reversed role. My bad, y'all. I didn't even see them comments. Okay, how do you know if the yoke is uneven? All right, so how do you know if somebody is not really in it with you? Okay, well, to be 100% sure, is that even possible? Okay, is that even possible to be 100% sure? All right, but let me speak from a male perspective, and then I'll try to break it down from a woman perspective, because I do have a couple pieces of advice that I always give. All right, gentlemen, you just meet a woman, right? If you want to know if this woman is really for you, right? And women, if you meet a man and you really want to know if this man is really for you, okay? You might not like this answer, okay? But there's really no 100% way to know. But the best way that you can find out if you're not being used by a woman is what? It's don't spend money on her up front. Don't spend money on her for a couple months, okay? And women, you want to know if a man really likes you, don't have sex with him for a couple months. Point blank period, right? People can only pretend for so long. Y'all need to take those things off a pedestal, take the money and sex off the pedestal, and actually get to know each other. Get in alignment with each other morally. Figure out if y'all could actually see yourself with one another for real. Can I really see myself with this person for real? Okay. And then I can actually pour into them. Now, let's look at it from a different lens. Because to be honest, why most people struggle with that explanation is that when people really take an honest look at themselves, they get fearful. Men feel, well, shit, if I'm not providing her with anything, if I'm not paying for it, if I'm not giving her money, how is she going to think I'm valuable? I might leave her. Well, I would say, well, shit, that means you're not valuable. That means you have nothing else of value. If you place all your value on what you can provide for somebody for their money, for your money, well, shit, you're just seeking validation in the external world anyway. You're outsourcing your power anyway. So that situation can't work. Shit, because you can go broke tomorrow. She can meet somebody with more money tomorrow. Anybody can give somebody money. Anybody can take her on a date. You don't even know her. Right? So what else can you provide? How is your game, right? To me, okay, and this is how I believe you should feel when you go to a woman, is the game she'll receive to me, she's not just going to go out and find that. The spiritual insight, the leadership, these are more valuable qualities, right? And then you can look at where I stay and what I drive and all those things, and you can see, okay, he's doing all right, right? He's doing pretty well, okay? And all of that will come, but I need to figure out if I'm in alignment with you. And I would say the same for women. It's like, okay, well, I think a lot of women, they just sleep with men earlier, maybe because it's fun, but subconsciously or even consciously, it's like, well, shoot, if I don't lock him down, if I don't shoot my shot, if I don't show him what I'm good at, well, then he might just go off and get it somewhere else. I would say, okay, well, shit, that means that you don't believe that anything else about you is valuable. If you believe that you can meet somebody and y'all cannot fall in, if y'all cannot love each other, y'all cannot start to see a future with one another without you spending money or without y'all having sex, what is the foundation going to be? Okay, not all the time, okay? Because that doesn't mean that that's what the foundation is going to be. But I'm saying if you eliminate that, a lot of people will waste a lot less time. Right? Now, let's go a little bit further. If I'm a man, right? In my book, I talk about this. Okay, my book is on Amazon. It's in the link in my bio. I talk about this. Your purpose is your shield. A whole chapter about this. All right, your purpose is going to be your shield. You are going to create a purpose, and that purpose is going to do something to your life. It's going to make your life consistent. Because you have this purpose, you're going to walk a certain way. You're going to speak a certain way. You're going to dress a certain way. You're going to eat a certain way. Right? If you're a fisherman, you're going to do certain things a certain way. Take care of your boat. Take care of the bait. Wake up at a certain time. Your lifestyle is going to be a certain way. You're going to work certain hours. Okay? You're going to want a woman that's aligned to that. You can't deal with a woman who says, "Oh, that's corny." Bro, I'm sitting on the internet talking. I can't deal with a woman if I believe that this is my purpose, right? And the woman says, hell no, that's corny. I can't deal with her. So your purpose is going to help you determine the type of woman that you want. All of these things, okay? So it becomes your shield. You can use it to filter out who's for you and who isn't. Ladies, you can use a man's purpose to figure out if you want to be there or not. If that purpose is not something that you could actually look at as your purpose as well shit, it's probably not for you. If she's not curious about what you're doing, about what you are committing to spend the rest of your life doing, or at least the next few years, well, that means she's not for you, man. That means she is not for you. So your purpose becomes your shield. So when you can align on purpose, all right, this is the direction of my life. And y'all's life, right, is in alignment like that. All right, well, cool. And now we can align morally, we can align spiritually, right? Now you at least know, because, sex and money, you can mistakenly think you love somebody because of sex and money. She doing all the things you like, right? She hitting all the spots you like, right? You bending over, you doing all the nasty shit that bro, y'all can mistake that for love. Then you're always doing nice stuff. You at the fair this week. You at this nice restaurant. You're flying to this place. Of course you love me. Of course you love me. You getting this grade A vibranium pipe, right? I'm taking you all these places. I'm spending this money on you. Of course you love me, but we don't really know each other, right? We still have to see if we love one another. So a lot of the magic is in having those conversations in alignment first. Now, what I would advise against, though, is sitting down with somebody and going through like a checklist. Right? You want this divine counterpart, you want this divine person, well then trust that to the God within you. You have a desire, so it's already a promise. So walk through life as such. Now, if you knew that divine counterpart was coming, how would you hold yourself? You know that eventually they're coming. You're not going to be just uptight with everybody. You're not going to sit down with every single person that you meet and be like, hey, look, I know I need a wife. But ladies, you're not going to be like, I know I need a man, so you got to do this, this, and this. You got to do this, this, and this off top, boom, boom, boom. You're not going to sit there with this checklist because you understand that that's going to come. That's promised. And it's going to come in a way that's divine. And I don't even know if this person in front of me is really for me, or if they're just meant to be my friend, if they're meant to be a business partner, if they're just not meant for anything. So I'm actually going to sit down and I'm just going to get to know them. And I'm going to see if this is actually somebody that I like. A lot of you start listing out the things that you want from somebody before you even fucking know that you like them. How many women I've been on a first date, I'm like, you don't even know me. You don't know me from anybody. And you already listing all the things that you want in a man. You want me? Are you saying this because you want me to start pretending? Are you just saying this because you're desperate? Are you saying this because you have a lack mindset? Why are you saying it? Why are you telling me all this? We don't even know each other. Right? Let people be who they are and figure out if you like them and then move forward. You're not going to like everybody after the first time y'all talk, after the second time y'all talk, maybe after the third time y'all talk, right? But get to know people for real. Allow life to push you downstream to your person. Don't try to climb upstream to your person, trying to force a round peg or a round, what is it, or a square peg in a round hole. Don't try to force a square peg in a round hole. I always say to try to say shit like that, but then I start stumbling over those words, right? But don't try to force a square peg into a circular hole. Allow life to flow. The more that you allow life to flow and start looking at everybody as God and everybody has a divine purpose and everybody's purpose is not to be with me. And that'll probably just be one person, unless you're a polygamous type of person. Okay. There's probably just going to be one person. So all these people that you meet, it's just going to be one that you end up with. Everybody else has their own purpose. So start taking life like that, man. You have 100 desires. One of them is to be married. Start flowing with life. This person is for business. This person is for whatever. I know what y'all probably thinking. Don't think that. When I say use everybody for their pride, I don't mean like this person's for sex, this person's for money. I mean this person might be to teach you a lesson. This person might be for prosperity. This person might just be, honestly, you'll probably just meet somebody as well that presents as everything that you would like, except for one glaring thing. And it is a test to see if you're going to actually settle or not. Are you going to settle and struggle with that one glaring thing that you do not like just because they do you right sexually and they spend all this money on you and all this shit? Or are you going to double down on what you want? Because you can really have it all. If there's one thing that I hope you learn from me, is that you can have it all. You can have everything you want. You can have the relationships you want, the money you want, the car you want. You can live where you want. You can do all the things that you can have it all. Once you submit to the God within you and you submit to the flow of life. Okay? Submit to the flow of life. All right. So when polarity is reversed, relationships become battlegrounds. Okay? Intimacy turns into power struggles. Respect turns into resentment. Masculine men feel trapped and not inspired. Okay. Feminine women feel burdened and not cherished. This is perfectly explained by the flow of Shiva and Shakti. Okay. So in mysticism, Shiva, or masculine consciousness, lies dormant until awakened by Shakti, feminine energy. Okay. But Shakti dances, not fights. She seduces, she awakens, she flows. Okay, so feminine energy typically awakens, it flows to masculinity, it flirts with masculinity. Okay, it doesn't confront per se. No, it confronts in a very literal way, but does not confront in a confrontational way, if that makes sense. Okay, so femininity does test boundaries, and femininity does say that this is where you're not stepping in your divinity. Right? Even if you think of femininity within the embodiment of any single person, all right? Why does a feminine leading woman really prefer a masculine leading man? Because he puts boundaries on her. Let that sit in for a second, and then let me break that down. What could he mean? Why would I want a man that puts boundaries on me? Okay, think of the nature of the feminine energy within you. Your feminine energy wants to flow. It's freedom. It's fun. It knows the feminine energy within me right now. Well, not within me right now, but within someone right now is saying, okay, I have work that I have to do tomorrow morning. So I have work that I need to finish by tomorrow morning. I have a meeting at 8 a.m. But the feminine energy within you is like freedom and fun. My homeboys in town, my homegirls in town, right? We finna go out and we're about to get faded tonight, right? And potentially put myself in a bad situation for tomorrow. But feminine energy is about the moment. It's about now. It's about it's about flowing in freedom right now. Where masculinity is about building, it's about future, it's about boundary. Okay? So the more that and this is why everybody has to cultivate masculine and feminine energy, is that if I just allow my feminine energy to just control my life and I just flow wherever, well, I become a person that is led by what? Just my emotions. Whatever I feel in the moment is what I do. And I start losing sense of what is best in the long term. So sometimes when men or when people go out and they say, well, women are only loyal to their emotions in the moment, what they're really saying is feminine energy is loyal to their emotions in the moment. Okay, so if you're led by feminine energy, then you have to have stronger boundaries. You have to really do a good job of cultivating that masculine energy to build discipline in your life. Right? The more feminine energy you have, the less you're probably concerned with discipline. Discipline might be something that you admire in others. Okay? But you could say you're going to work out today, and if you wake up, you work out. If you don't, you're just going to go do what you do. You're going to flow. You're going to do all these things that you want to do, and God is good, and you're in gratitude, and you're just flowing with life, and that's fine. Okay? But then the moment that you want direction in your life, this is why certain women, especially this is why feminine leading people, extremely feminine leading people, can often struggle in like corporate environments. Okay? Because it's very constricting. It requires you to step into masculine energy. Well, I appreciate you. Okay? Appreciate you. It requires you to step into masculine energy. Right? So now we see the same dance that happens within us. Okay? The feminine energy wants to flow within me. I want to go do all these things. But the masculine energy in me knows that I need to set boundaries. Okay? This is the same way that two people come into a relationship together. All right? And now a woman can settle into the boundaries of masculinity. Then we also see that femininity tests those boundaries. The same way that the feminine energy within you, when you want to go out and you know you got to do something, it's going to be like, well, shit, maybe I could just go out for an hour. It's going to start testing you. This is the same way that feminine energy tests masculinity. This is the same way that women test men. Hopefully this is a different way that you've heard it, because I've had several videos where I talk about how women test men. But like I said, I wanted to break this down from an energetic perspective so we understand the dynamics that go on in our relationships are the same dynamics that go on within us. Okay? My feminine energy, your feminine energy is going to test your masculine energy all the time. I know you say you want to wake up at 5 a.m. and the alarm goes off, but shit, tomorrow. I'm in the moment right now. I want to do what feels best in the moment. I know I said I got to wake up early tomorrow, but it would be nice to go out and have some fun tonight, right? It would feel better right now to do that. So there's always this battle between future and present, right? And so we have to be able to balance that in our own personal lives, and then we can balance that in our relationships. Okay? So that's what I meant. All right, so masculine men feel trapped and not inspired, and then feminine women feel burdened and not cherished whenever polarity is reversed. Okay, so when she becomes rigid and combative, Shiva withdraws, Shiva being the man. So when a woman becomes rigid, when she becomes combative, I mean, oh man, this is like a canon moment in most men's life, right? Is you're dealing with a woman and she just seems obsessed with you. She loves everything about you, bro, everything, okay? Then all of a sudden she gets cold. In the end of the relationship, it's like she's just a different person, okay? And now you have no, well, that's gonna send me on a whole nother fucking topic. Let's talk about this just in this context, okay? So when your woman becomes rigid and combative, the only thing that you can do in that situation is withdraw. Let's not talk about it from the end of a relationship perspective. Let's talk about it from a perspective of y'all are having a disagreement and all of a sudden she's getting very, very combative. Her masculine energy is starting to lead her. All right. Now we understand the rules of man versus man. If I'm a man and I'm arguing with another man, I already know not to cross certain lines because it could get violent. But your woman doesn't operate in the male world. She operates in a woman world. Okay? And so now you can feel disrespected if she's coming at you too strong. And what you will tend to do is you'll withdraw because you have no other choice. Let's go back to what I was saying earlier, right? The masculine man is now faced with a paradox. He cannot respond as he would to another man. Society forbids it. Your moral compass would forbid that. You're not a man if you hit a woman. Right? I don't want to hit a woman. She's coming at me like this, okay? What other option do I have? Real men don't get emotional. So you can say whatever. It says if she can say whatever to you, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, why you acting sassy? Why you acting like that? You should be stoked. You should be a rock. Walk away. Be the bigger person. Okay? These are all lose-lose situations. And so these force you to repress, to suppress your emotions. Okay? So you repress your emotions. You swallow your pride. You withhold your primal instinct. Okay? But that energy cannot be denied forever. That pressure turns inward and it becomes emasculation, confusion, rage. Because the only thing that you can do is withdraw. It's the only thing that you can do. So you lose pieces of yourself trying to stay civilized in a battlefield where the rules are rigged. So this is food for thought for men and women. Have you ever been in this situation where you catch yourself being overly argumentative with this man? And now he has no choice but to eventually just repress himself. And now your natural thought might be, damn, why are you getting emotional? You're supposed to be a man, bro. Why are you in your feelings? That's your natural thought. But what else could he do? You're not even playing by the rules of engagement. You're not abiding by the rules anymore. You're trying to step into a male role, but you're not. So another man, we would have crossed the line. Huh? We would have crossed the line. We would have had to go somewhere else with this. But because you're my woman, I love you. I can't put my hands on you. I can't even go too far with the argument because it doesn't feel right. It wouldn't be right. If it was another man, I wouldn't do this, right? But it's almost as if a lot of women, they don't have that filter, right? They don't have that filter. So what else does this man can do? What else could that man do? All right, so like I said before, pressure turns inward and it becomes emasculation, confusion, and even rage. So you feel less of a man. You begin to suppress your emotions. You begin to withdraw more. You become less confrontational. This is all a result of not understanding polarity, of us not understanding how to communicate with the masculine, how to communicate with the feminine. And when we understand how to communicate with these aspects of polarity within ourselves, now we can communicate with our partner better. Women, there are some things that you're going to get a much better. If you, let me give y'all a practical example. If you tell your man, God damn, you still haven't taken the trash out, he might take the trash out. But if you told him how sexy he looks when he's dragging the trash can to the street with his shirt off, and you can't stop thinking about him all day, he's going to wait until you can see him. And then he's going to immediately go out there and drag that trash can. He might do 100 push-ups and pump his body up and then go drag that trash can out. The more you understand your power, you will not try to step into male realms. You won't try to battle masculinity with masculinity. You'll start trying to flow with masculinity with your femininity. This is your superpower. Many a kings go to war over the words of their women. A woman can whisper something in a man's ear, and boom, he's off to war. Go look at history. You can see this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Okay? But there also cannot be two kings in the same castle. It doesn't work. It does not work. Right? But there doesn't need to be. You can lead. Right? You can get what you want through your femininity. And your power is in your words, and your nurturing, your flirting, and your ability to learn how to speak life. You get much more from speaking life, from positive reinforcement, than you ever will with arguing. Because when y'all are arguing, you're not even arguing from the same thought process. And so the example that I'll give is, like we were talking about earlier, you have femininity and masculinity within you. Everyone has this within them. Okay? My feminine energy is focused on what feels good right now. It wants to flow, wants to have fun, wants to go turn up, it wants to go drink, it wants to go not just that, right? But if I have work to do, it might want to just go sleep. My feminine energy is focused on what I want to do right now. So it's loyal to the now moment. My feminine energy is in the present. This is why a lot of women can help bring men in the present moment. All right? Women can help men get out of their head and into their body. Just like men can help women get out of their body and into their head. You can help a woman structure her life different. A woman can help you enjoy your life differently. This is divinity. This is all, and it's all within you. You can go back and forth between these two aspects within yourself all the time. And then you can go into your relationship, and as you understand yourself, because you're the universe is within you. It's all being outpictured from you. So all these things, these gender roles, these gender dynamics, it's all within you as well. If you want to learn about anything, learn about everything. If you want to learn about everything, learn about anything. Die on that hill. Okay? Everything represents everything. Okay? So the same things that you're experiencing with all these men and all these women out there are just trying to teach you about yourself. The more that you study yourself, the more that you learn spiritual law, and you learn how these things work, the better you will be at navigating everything. right? So my feminine energy wants to be in the body. It says, fuck tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? You only live once. It's tonight. We going up tonight. My masculine energy says, I want to conquer. And I know I need to do that through discipline. Right? So we got to understand that polarity. Got to understand that polarity. So, all right. Part 5, 6. You can't build heaven with hell's tools. All right. Masculine men should avoid arguing with masculine women. Okay? Not out of fear, but wisdom. Because the game is rigged. If you fight back, you're toxic. Okay? If you walk away, you're weak. Either way, you lose. Okay? So the solution is discernment. Do not enter a union that violates your core polarity. Do you truly understand your core polarity and what you want? Right? If you're a woman that would prefer to be out in front and make all those decisions, right? And you would prefer to operate in the realm of discipline versus in the moment, well, then you're masculine leading. If all those things sounded repulsive to you and you're like, hell no, right? Like, I want to be in the moment. I want to be in my body. I want a man that leads me. I want a man that I can truly trust, right? Then you're in your feminine. Okay, it's the same with men, right? Do you want a woman that leads you, or do you want to be in front, right? Do you want to operate with creating the boundaries of the relationship and operate in the future? Do you want to only operate in the now, right? It's going to determine your polarity. So we need to choose people that are not in alignment, but that are opposites of our polarity. It would make no sense for me to go out and be with a woman that was a leading masculine woman. Chaos would ensue. That's right. So I have to have a woman that's more feminine leading. Okay? And then you'll also see that when you understand your core polarity, now my core polarity can penetrate a feminine woman and pull her more, push her more into femininity. Right? A feminine woman, her femininity can open up the masculine and push him more into his masculinity. Right? It's all just a game. It's all just a game. All these gender role things, it's all just a game. But it is playing out within you, and then it's being outpictured in the external world. Okay? It's all playing out within you. The more you understand how these roles work within you, the more that you can understand how to operate with them outside of you. Okay. So, kind of in conclusion, right, before we get to this closing reflection, is that women, if you truly want to be empowered in your relationship, you have to learn the discernment of when to speak up and when not to. When do I want to allow this man to lead, right? Is this an important thing for me to argue about, for me to speak up about? Right? Okay, he says that he wants to do certain things in a certain order. Example I gave, right, is y'all are going on a trip tomorrow. He says we can go eat, and then we're going to go run errands. Then we're going to come home and pack. And in your mind, you're like, no, we should just go pack and go do the errands and then go eat so we can enjoy our night. Maybe it's a big deal. Maybe it's not. What's the difference? You do it his way, then y'all are going to go out to eat. Then y'all are going to pack and you're going to sit home. You're going to flirt with each other, and he's going to pipe you down at the end of the night. You're going to have a great night in the crib. Then you're going to go on your flight and have fun. If you do it your way, then you're going to go out, run errands. You're going to go eat. You're going to come home. He's going to pipe you down. You're going to go have fun. Same shit happens in a different order. Is it that important? So you have to understand when to pick your battles. You have to also understand, if it's that important to you, what is more powerful, okay, and what is more in alignment with what's going to push that relationship forward? Is it going to be your combativeness, or is it going to be you flirting your way into what you want? Y'all will be surprised at how positive reinforcement, okay? If you want somebody to stop doing, at least, just hear this out, right? If you want a man to stop doing what you do not like, then find out what he could do instead of that and praise him for doing that. Praise him for doing the opposite of what you do not like. This is where your power is. Matter of fact, tell him he's sexy doing it. Find a way to compliment him from doing it. Find a way to, you look good every time you do that. Find a way. And see how it changes. You can even do an experiment. Okay, find 2 things you don't like. One of the things you don't like, just attack it head on. Get in your masculine energy and attack it head on. Okay, the same way that you would the same way that you would attack a problem in your life head on. All right, just say, I don't like that shit. Change it, because it makes me feel like this. Now another issue, find the opposite and praise him for it. So I love when you do that. You would be surprised. You got a man that's at home. Let's say he loses his job, or let's say he's struggling to find a job. Or let's say that you see potential in him to do better. And instead of saying, damn, like, I feel like you should be doing better, find a way to speak life through that assessment. Maybe you are so good at this. Maybe it's cooking. Maybe it's whatever, right? You're so good at this. I see all these people online doing content, and I just know that you could do better. And you look better, and you're so fine when you do it. Man, if I look at you like, you're right. I can do whatever. I can do anything that you say. Right? And watch him go to work. Right? But you have to understand your power to be able to step like this. Okay? And then also, to my men, right? The more that we step in the polarity of our masculinity, right? And we understand that there are certain rules we have to abide by when we are dealing with other men and we are having that conversation. Now, we can also see that if I'm in a situation where I'm dealing with a woman that's leading in her masculinity, that becomes combative, all of a sudden the rules are rigged. There's nothing that I can do. Huh? Exactly. That's exactly what you say, right? There's nothing that you can do. Okay, so the game is rigged. If you fight back, you are toxic. If you walk away, you are weak. Either way, you lose. Your best choice is to always deal with women that are on the opposite side of the polarity than you, and then work to penetrate her more, to bring out the most femininity in her. And then also understand that her femininity is going to motivate you and hold you and push you up into this divine version of masculinity. Okay? So, closing reflection, then I want to go off subject. And it's on subject, but it's a little different. Okay, so closing reflection, to preserve your power, protect your polarity. Okay, so to manifest divine union, respect the divine design. And I'm not talking about just like men should do this, women should do this. What I'm saying is respect the polarity within you. Understand the polarity within you. Don't look at these things as gender wars and all these things. Think about it as people forgetting about the laws of polarity, how polarity works, how energy flows. And the more that you can understand this, understand this, overstand this, whatever you want to say, right? The more that you know about how the internal mechanics of your own energy works, the better you're going to be kind of in the world. All right, so can 2 walk together unless they be agreed? Not just in beliefs, but in energy, and not just in love, but in roles. Because if you can relax into a role, if you choose, this is the polarity that I want to be in, for the most part, right? And I can start choosing that. Well, now, I can actually grow in that role with this person. All right. So now I'm going to talk about the same thing, but from a little different aspect. I was on a call earlier with some of my homeboys, and we started talking about what has, especially in the black community, really specifically in the black community, in the melanated community, is why are we the way that we are, especially when it comes to gender dynamic. Okay, a lot of us have to really understand that some of the things that we've inherited, whether it's trauma, whether it's our views on gender roles, it's not even our parents' fault. Our parents were just trying to survive. They were in situations that they could not even choose. Shit, it wasn't their choice to be in certain situations. They were just in. They were doing the best they fucking could. All right, so let me see. Have y'all ever read this letter? This Willie Lynch letter, The Making of a Slave. This is gonna really show you about gender, like gender roles, like how our gender roles got flipped on their head. I'm just gonna read one paragraph from it. Here it is, okay? You zoom in so y'all can see it. All right, so if I read every word, I'm gonna get suspended on here. So I'm gonna try to edit my conversation or my talk. All right. So the breaking process of the African woman. Check this out, okay? Check this out and see how this plays into where we are today as a people, okay? Take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. Test her in every way, because she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows any sign of resistance in submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the whip on her to extract that last bit of B word out of her. Okay? Take care not to kill her, for in doing so, you spoil good economics. When in complete submission, she will train her offspring in the early years to submit to labor when they become of age. Understanding is the best thing. Therefore, we shall go deeper into this area of the subject matter concerning what we have produced here in this breaking process of the female N-word. Okay? We have reversed the relationship in her natural, uncivilized state. In her natural, uncivilized state, she would have a strong dependency on the uncivilized N-word male. And she would have a limited protective tendency toward her independent male offspring and would raise male offsprings to be dependent like her. Okay? Nature had provided for this type of balance. We reverse nature by burning and pulling a civilized N-word apart and bullwhipping the other to the point of death, all in her presence. By her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her to move from her psychological dependent state, okay, to a frozen independent state. In this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reversed roles. For fear of the young male's life, she will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong. Because she has become psychologically independent, she will train her female offsprings to be psychologically independent. What have you got? You've got the N-word woman out front and the N-word man behind and scared. This is a perfect situation of sound sleep and economics. Before the breaking process, we had to be alert, on guard at all times. Now we can sleep soundly, for out of frozen fear, his woman stands guard for us. He cannot get past her early slave molding process. He is a good tool now, ready to be tied to the horse at a tender age. By the time a N-word boy reaches the age of 16, he is soundly broken in and ready for a long life of sound and efficient work and the reproduction of a unit of good labor force. Continually through the breaking of uncivilized savage N-words, by throwing the N-word female savage into a frozen psychological state of independence, by killing of the protective male image, and by creating a submissive, dependent mind of the male slave, we have created an orbiting cycle that turns on its axis forever. Forever. Not turns on its axis for the next generation, but forever. An orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever. Unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the male and female slaves, we show what we mean by example. Take the case of the two economic slave units and examine them close. All right, let's think about this. Think about this. Okay, it's been going on. It's been back in 1712 this came out, right? So they already knew. Shoot, these slaves were rebelling. They'll try to say like, why didn't the slaves fight back? Because they were trained not to. They were trained not to, right? You don't think that if you have all of these slaves, you're gonna find ways to break them down, okay? So we see it right here. The breaking process of the black men and women was what? Beat this man to a half-inch of death in front of his woman and show her that there's nothing that he could do to save you. There's nothing that he could do to protect you. And now you have to be this independent woman, right? See, beforehand, the woman was highly dependent, highly respectful of the male. And the male was highly highly antagonizing, let's say that, to anybody that tried to capture him or suppress him. Okay, they were always fighting back, always rebelling. But now we figure out how to do it. Beat the shit out this man, right? Now beat the shit out this woman and show her that nobody can save her. So now she has to raise her children from this psychological perspective of submit. So you teach your son to be psychologically weak, to submit, but physically strong so you can do the labor. And you teach your woman to be independent. You teach your daughter to be independent. You don't need a dude, right? Now we see these same type of dynamics play out in the modern world. The attack on the family has been going on forever, right? Especially as melanated people. If you really understood what your melanin was, you think it's just pigment. You think it just makes you darker. No. Your melanin is an antenna. This substance within you is an antenna. Matter of fact, this substance within you is in everything in the universe. It acts as an antenna that helps you communicate interdimensionally. This is why when they target people, what's the number one group that is targeted is black folk, bro. It's your melanated ass, man. You're the one who's been fed the fried chicken since you were a kid. You're the one who got the remains of animals to eat, all the low vibrational food, right? You're the one who they're pouring all these diseased ass food spots into your neighborhood, right? You're the one who's being sold the most propaganda. You're the one who's being told that your culture is music. How is your culture rap music? What has rap music ever done for the community? Even when y'all look back, or we look back in the past and we're like, oh, it's been so good for the community. What about it has ever been good for the community? Truly. What about it has ever led us to higher consciousness or forced us out of the cycle that we're in? Right? There's all things to think about, right? So this thing has been going on forever. You see, there was even the straight up word that was put in here. What was it? Anyways, it said it was going to go on forever. And it said unless there was all of a sudden I can't fucking read. It said unless there was a phenomenon to stop it. It's the last sentence. I'm just thinking it's in the middle. Okay, so we've created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever. Unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the male and female slaves. Unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the male and female slaves. We show what we mean by example. Okay, and then anyone who tries to rise up, right? You know, they had the Black Messiah. Was the CIA at the Black Messiah thing where anybody, if they just sniffed that you were a black leader and that you could turn consciousness, they infiltrated your shit, they misguided you, threw you off course, and then after you did their agenda, they just killed you. Like the greatest threat to democracy is what the Negro. The greatest threat to democracy is the Negro, which is an actual quote from the former CIA director, right before they killed, was it Fred Hampton, the Black Panthers, when they did them wrong, right? Did them wrong. Okay, but we see this letter is interesting. You can read it for free. It's a PDF online, right? It's called the making of a slave. Okay, but it's 5 pages long. It talks about everything from crossbreeding, right? Let me see if there's another part to read. That's good enough. But as you see, right, a lot of times we'll talk about healing, trauma and generational trauma. A lot of the trauma that we have inherited as people is not even the fault of our parents. They were just doing what they had to do to survive. Right. And as we see, each generation is more conscious than the last. Okay, if we're doing the right things, okay, maybe not all the time, right? But if we are doing the right things, okay, the next generation should be more conscious than us. Sometimes it doesn't look like it's going that way, right? But we often see that the younger generation, we have to go through a rebellious stage and then we have to turn it on. Okay, so if you really do look at the world as a whole, more and more people are conscious now than perhaps ever. All right, and that's going to continue to grow. But there are always these structures, these institutions that are in place that we have to continue to be aware of. And you can't fight against something that you're not aware of. We constantly blame people. When you don't really know what's going on, it's very easy to blame other people for your situation, right? Because you can't really find the root cause to target. But if I see, there were systemic issues, right? If I really do see the truth of some of these systemic issues, well, now I can understand some of the patterns of my parents better, and that can help me understand some of the patterns of myself better. Right. So the more that we know just about everything in general, the more that we can actually help ourselves to grow. Oh man, a lot of undoing. A lot of work actually needs to be done, right? But the first part of that is always education and knowledge. Once we get education and knowledge, now we can have the relevant conversations. Because even if you really look at the conversations that are being had right now, especially in Black communities, we talk about relationship dynamics from a very surface level perspective without really going into, okay, well, why are these happening? And I've even seen certain people that will complain about it and say, man, we're the only people, Black people are the only people that talk about shit like this. We're the only people arguing about relationships. Why can't we just all get along and chill? I'm tired of men versus women. This is the reason. Okay? If you're not aware of the reason, of course it's frustrating. Right? But there's a deeper issue that we're all trying to solve. So once we actually see, hold up, this was implemented. This isn't something that just randomly popped up one day and all of a sudden we were just always talking about gender dynamics. No. This is something that has been going on for hundreds of years. Intentionally, we were placed in this position. So now that I know that, now I can actually start looking and putting the pieces together. Well, what has actually kept us in this programming? Everything. The music has kept us in this programming. Okay, the type of TV shows that are pushed to us have kept us in this programming. Okay, the type of food that we eat has made it easy for us to be programmed. The environments that we're in, okay, the prison systems, all of these systems, all of these things are built up on top of implementations like this. And so now it's like, oh, okay, well, now my eyes are open to all these things. So it's not just a simple men need to be better and women need to be better. There's all kinds of institutions in place that are pushing us down this path. So now we can have honest conversation, real conversation. Okay, what is the next step? Well, shit, probably one of the things that we need to do is we need to be working on how we probably eat. Next thing, we need to be monitoring what we hear. Is what I hear actually conducive to these proper relationships? Okay? Is me listening to music talking about all my women as bitches and hoes and all these men ain't shit and just fuck every bitch that I can see, right? Is that conducive to the type of world that I want my kids to live in? Okay? So now you start challenging everything because you see that everything is a byproduct of everything. Everything is relating to everything. Okay? So now, since we can actually see where some things started and we can actually start looking at our history, we'll start doing that. We can start actually doing the real work to heal. But part one is absolutely education. If I don't know, like I only know what I know. If I do not know why things are happening, then shit, of course, if I'm only looking at the surface, I'm looking at the tip of the iceberg, I'm going to be frustrated. Why are all these men always doing this? Why are we always as black people talking about this shit? Because this is what it was designed for us to do. The world is designed for us to constantly be in gender wars because that keeps you weak, away from your divinity. Now you can't focus on anything else. You're only worried about all these men that have been raised in a certain way. We're still raising our sons and daughters the same way that they were telling us to raise, that they were saying that they should raise us in this letter, in this making of a slave. Still to this day, we have broken homes. Still to this day, all women are melanated, beautiful goddesses are the ones saying, I don't need no man. I don't need no man. I can do it all by myself. Okay? And our men are being raised by women who aren't, our men are being raised more feminine. The same way that these slave owners were being taught how to raise their slaves. So we see that the cycle keeps going. And it even specifically says it right here. Specifically says it. Quote unquote. Okay? I keep going past what I'm trying to read, man. Yeah, but it specifically says it, right? Unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the male and female slaves. We've created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever. It turns on its own axis forever. So it's not just that right now our women are believing something. Of course, yeah, the programming of today is reinforcing it. All my single ladies and INDEP and all this shit, right? That's programming it, but this infrastructure has already been built. So we think just because we popped out of slavery, all of a sudden things are going to change. Think all of a sudden your mental was liberated. No, your body was liberated. But the first step in capturing somebody is what? Capturing their mind. Is breaking the mind. You have to, if you want to train an animal, you train their mind. Okay, you break their mind. Okay? If you want to train a person, you break their mind. You want to enslave a person, the first thing you have to take away is their mental. And so our body is free, doesn't mean our mental is free. We've been in this delusion, right? I mean, think about this. You're a man, you get captured with your wife and kids, they take you. Can I even say that? Sexually assault you in front of everybody? Then beat your ass till you're damn near dead in front of everybody? And then take your wife and do the same in front of you? And show her that no man can ever protect you from what I can do to you? What does that do to you mentally? Now it changes the way that you raise your children. You're going to raise your son to be submissive, to be more feminine, to just go with whatever. This is how you're going to raise your son. You're going to raise your daughter. Don't depend on a man. Man can't save you. And now the next generation, because they were raised like that, they're going to raise their kids like that. Okay, take the shackles off. You're still going to be raising your children like that. Your mind's not automatically liberated because you're out of the condition. So I say, everything represents everything. You can get out of a situation of abuse. Let's say that you're in an abusive relationship. You can leave that situation. It doesn't mean the situation is not still in you. It doesn't mean you're not still operating from the mindset of that situation. This is why you can leave a situation, you can develop habits, and those habits and patterns can still be detrimental to your future relationships. You can still take the toxic coping mechanisms that you learned in this relationship and apply it to your next. And then that fails. So you have to get to a point either way, right? You leave a toxic situation, you get into something that's more healthy, you're going to start having to unlearn behaviors. Okay? Just because we've left a toxic situation and we're now in a less toxic situation doesn't mean that we've unlearned all of our behaviors. Because what is the number one thing that we always talk about? If you want to change a behavior, you have to be what? Accountable. To be accountable, I actually have to know what my patterns are, why I have my patterns. It's easy for me to do, or it's easier for me to do that when my patterns started with me. But when they started 400 years ago, 500 years ago, and they've just been passed down, this is the way we've done things, how do I know? Because if you logically think about it, it makes sense to say, I'm going to raise my daughter not to need a man, because she's not going to be promised a husband, and she's going to be this independent thinker, and she's going to do all these independent things. If I think about it from a worldly perspective, it makes sense. But then when I start backing up and I go back to here, I'm like, oh, whoa. Why do I think that makes sense? Why do I think that makes sense? Okay, now, of course, the world has always also shifted to where, okay, and now we're going to take a step further. The world has also shifted to where when we think of modern day slavery, it's not about a race, it's about a class. So if I constantly make everybody think that you don't need anybody else, now I constantly have people in the workforce, right? So it's shifted. When we talk about modern day slavery, it's shifted from just this attack on black people, right? It shifted. So if you even think about, let's go through the history of slavery a little bit. I'll give you a little brief history lesson, okay? So when Europeans came over here, whether you believe we were here or not, some of us were, some of us weren't. Some of us were brought over on ships, some of us were here. But there were slaves and there were indentured servants. Indentured servants were typically poor Europeans that owed money. They could work for their freedom. So they would be slaves for a certain amount of time. Then they would be freed based on the debt that they had. They owed a big debt. They worked for a certain time. They got freed. Now what happened is these slaves and indentured servants were living together. And what happened? They started sleeping together, having children. They became very difficult to tell apart. The rules come muddy. Slave plus indentured servant, have a child. What is the child? Okay, so what they did, okay, after around the 1400s, they made a system. They said, okay, if you are dark, you're a slave. If you're not dark, you're an indentured servant. And what did they do? They made the indentured servants what? The slave patrol. So this immediately pits these people against each other. So you had the slaves on one hand, you have the slave patrol on one hand. So what was the job of the slave patrol? Is to terrorize the slaves. Slaves run away, slave patrol beats the shit out of them. The slave patrol chases them with the dogs. Okay? So this is what is the first concept of what? Policing in the States. Okay, the first concept of policing. Now, fast forward, slavery is abolished. All right, we go after Juneteenth and all that. We have a war, boom, boom, boom. Now what comes in is the Jim Crow laws. And so they would lock black people up for just petty crimes. And what they would do is instead of putting you in slave camps, they might arrest you for walking across the street. They might give you 20 years in a labor camp for stealing a loaf of bread. 20 years in a labor camp. The conditions in a labor camp were so bad that a lot of people died in these camps. A lot of people died in these camps. Okay? And so who was enforcing the laws? Well, the old slave patrol. They went out and started helping people, or started putting these people up. Right? And then you had other people that became Klansmen, right? Like judges and all these lawyers and all these people, right? But the slave patrol transitioned to the police force to capture these black people, right? And put them in the labor camp. So we can't get your labor for free in the slave fields anymore, but we can just implement the labor camp. So we had a mass transition. All right. Now let's fast forward. Okay. In I don't even know the exact year, but there was at one point in time, most of black people worked like industry jobs. They worked industry jobs. And what actually happened was now they shut down a lot of these factories, not industry jobs, factory jobs. A lot of black people worked factory jobs. Most did. They started shutting down these factories. And then what happened whenever they started shutting down these factories? The war on drugs came. The war on drugs came. Okay, so now you can get locked up for a long time just off of petty drug offenses. And so we went from the slave fields to the labor camps to prison. And what is the purpose of all this? What was the purpose of the slave field? Cheap labor. Free labor. Well, it wasn't absolutely free because you still have to feed them and do all these things and keep them at least well enough to work. Now you transition to the labor camp. What do? You feed them. You just give them just enough. And then a couple pennies, right? Just enough. And now you go to prison. You give them just enough to survive. They get pennies for their work. Pennies. Inhumane. But it's just so they can do work for the corporation. So what has changed? What has changed? Okay, you're not living there. Well, you still are living in the prison systems, right? But the prison system is just an extension of the slave field. The only difference is that instead of just being black people in the prison system, it's all the colors. Everybody is in there. Okay, so now instead of just being against blacks, it's against an entire class. Right? It has morphed from the labor camps being kind of targeting black people, right? Because petty crime, Jim Crow laws, you can get out of there quick. Somebody can just accuse you of something, you're done. They either lynching you or they putting you in a labor camp. Okay? And then we had the war on drugs, and boom. Now we see how the prison is. The prison is an industry. The prison is a money-making machine, locking people up for cheap-ass labor. Okay? So we see how things morph over time. So anyway, that was a side note just to kind of talk about gender roles and where a lot of these disagreements come from, especially in the black community. All right? But you'll see, even if you look at it right now, it's class. That's one thing that if you study the Black Panthers, that's what they always talked about is, you know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be, black versus white. It's poor versus rich. That's what it's turned into. Like they want you distracted thinking that it's a black versus a white thing. That's why I still don't even agree with certain commentary, right? Because there's certain schools of thought, or there's certain knowings that you come into on the spiritual path about who has a soul, who doesn't, about the power of melanin and the power of darkness. But we also have to understand that at one point in time, because the universe operated in darkness, high vibration was this dark matter energy, this melanin energy. And so we were made manifest as kind of the original people on earth, but then there were more light-skinned people. But you fast forward until today, and everyone is mixed up. So that's not even a way that we can determine high, low vibration. Everybody is mixed up. You have all these different races, all these different skin complexions. You can be black and be fair-skinned and be light-skinned. So today, that really does not determine your vibrational level. It does not. All right? But your melanin is access to the sun. Right? It is access to higher dimensional information. Okay? But in this day and age, it ain't you can't just look at somebody and be like, you're you or you're not you. All right? That's all I'm going to say on that. Okay? But kind of to end this, we can do questions for a little bit. It's already like 10:30, but we can do a little bit of questions. Just to end this, the more that we know about ourselves, and then the more that we go back and start learning about our history and our past, the better equipped that we are to just move forward in life, right? As we'll start to see, and as you all notice, everything can teach you about everything. You can learn about yourself by studying your history, by studying your own life. You can learn about relationships by studying the masculine and feminine energy within you. All these things, right? Cool. But anyways, man, if y'all got questions, let's drop some questions. We can talk about anything. We can talk about, damn. Shit, man. We can talk about whatever. We can talk about masculinity, femininity. We can talk about spirituality. We can talk about relationships. We can talk about what we were just talking about, the breaking of the slave, all those things, man. So I'll give y'all a couple minutes. You get shy with your fingers to type some questions. And then if not, we'll end it with a prayer and some affirmations for y'all as always and move forward. But by the way, if y'all are typing questions, I appreciate y'all for joining. You know, it's actually pretty cool to start recognizing, you know, certain people that always show up. So hopefully, you know, y'all are getting something valuable from these conversations. But truly, truly appreciate y'all. Truly. And I also know today was a little change of pace, man. We've been talking about manifesting for a while. Michael, my brother, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Okay, cool. Shit, nothing to talk about. All right, that's fine. Who won this game, man? Who else played today? I saw the Pacers played. Oh, shit, the Warriors beating the shit out the Wolves. I didn't expect that. All right, y'all. Jennifer, I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, y'all. Let's end this with a prayer since everybody's shy today. Or maybe I just explained something so good no one had questions, which I'll take that. Okay. Guess the phenomenon has changed because you see more people healing and more healthy couples. Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, in the process, right? I do see, I'm like you, right? I like to look at things from that perspective because, as I think I mentioned, when I look out into the world, I see a lot more people that are conscious now than ever. I believe more people now are conscious than ever, but I also believe that the globalization of the world, of information, has really helped. So now we're in a place where we can exchange ideas better than ever. I can tell my opinion on the internet in Dallas, Texas, and be heard somewhere across the world. And so we're constantly talking about things and researching, and people are putting their opinions out there. And what it's doing is it's causing conversation. And conversation is always going to be a step to healing. So, you know, I think we are on the right path. And of course, we're going to have speed bumps and certain things have to fall apart to come back together, or because that's just how the universe operates. The universe doesn't operate in good or bad. It just operates in whatever the situation is. Sometimes it needs to be torn apart so something better can be built on top of it. Right? We see this all the time play out in nature, whether it's through natural disasters, whether it's through our own personal life where we have to go through a heartbreak to learn lessons so we can be the right person for the right person. Okay, this is just how it all is. So it's interesting that I always take these two views. The one view is, you know, I'm very on one hand, I'm very, very attached to who I am. Okay, meaning I'm aware of who I am, right? But on the other end, I understand that God is within me, and I stay very, very detached from all these things, right? But knowing who we are and spreading that information and being able to walk that middle path and tread the boundary between that divinity and our humanity, is anyways, long story short, yeah, it's definitely the connection that evolves us, in my opinion, right? Because the first step is education, and part of education is just connection. Okay, so now things that were hidden, right? So let's say 20, 30, 40 years ago, I had to go to a certain institution to get information. Now you can take classes at Harvard for free, MIT for free, right? You can get on the internet and get information for free. You can get on Google, you can get on ChatGPT, you can get on all these different platforms, and you can find information. A lot of things, it's hard to hide them. Now, even if you want occult knowledge, you can go find that. So there's really no excuse for people not knowing, except for, if they're just lazy. Okay, if they just don't want to know. You can always challenge your beliefs. So now is a time, there's never been a time better than now to learn. And as we learn, we start to heal. We start to challenge. Why are things like this? Why were they like this? And that's where we heal. So it's a beautiful thing to see. Beautiful thing to see. All right, y'all. Let's end with a prayer. I'm getting tired. I'm starting to stumble over words, and then we can give y'all some affirmations so we can get out of here. Quick prayer, quicker affirmations. Long affirmations, quick prayer. All right, Heavenly Father, thank you for every single person, every single opportunity disguised as an obstacle that you have presented in our life to expand us into the most divine version of ourselves. Continue to walk by us, walk with us, walk within us moment by moment, and remind us that the love, the intimacy, the worthiness, the prosperity that we're seeking in the external world is always within us and ready to be tapped into at every moment. Cool. Right, y'all, I see you all as divine, as beautiful, as prosperous, as worthy, as in alignment with everything that you desire. Okay, I see you as ideal. Right? You can have it all. You can have the divine relationship. You can have the car. You can have the prosperity, the money, the love, all the things that you want. You can have them. And if you do not feel worthy for them, it's okay, because I see you as worthy. So I know that it must be true. Know that it must be true. Okay? Stay the beautiful gods, the beautiful goddesses that you are, right? And remove every limitation in your mind that is keeping you from going after the things that you want. You deserve it all, right? Y'all have a beautiful, beautiful evening. Talk again tomorrow, God willing. And peace. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.